Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the November Steering Legislative and Governmental Committee to order. First item of business is to approve our minutes from our last meeting. I'll call on Vice Chairman Commissioner Gooch.
Thank you. I move to approve it, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second motion.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's good. That'd be a bad start. Next, we need to fill 2 vacancies on the Correctional Work Center Board. I believe, Commissioners, we've received 3 applications that you should have been emailed. One from Francis Mosby, another from Robert Asbury, and one from Patsy Briley. Also, I believe you also received a letter from Chairman Burgess of this committee with the recommendation, and I'll just read this. The Rutherford County Correctional Work Center Board met for their monthly board meeting on October 3rd, 2011. Tom Hartley made a motion that the board endorse the reappointments of Francis Mosby and Robert Asbury to the Rutherford County Correctional Work Center Board, and Chairman Burgess seconded the motion. They are very productive members of our board, and we urge confirmation of their appointments. Sincerely, Ernest Burgess, Chairman. As our practice is, are any of these applicants, is Francis Mosby in the audience?
Yes, I am.
If you'd like to address the committee and make any comments about your application for reappointment.
Yes, I would. I would like to be appointed because I feel like that I at least bring one lady. Other people are men, that's on the committee. And I've been on there for 3 years. Took my husband's place. He was there for 10 years. And I just think I love working with Mayor Burgess and all the members. And I think we do a pretty good job over there, so I'd like to be reappointed.
Any questions for Ms. Mosby? Mr. Robert Asbury.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the commission for appointing me to fill this interim term that just expired. I had a great privilege of working with an excellent staff of men and women that work over there, and I'm very proud, and Rutherford County should be proud of everybody that works over there. I feel that my experience in law enforcement corrections gives me a special insight into the problems they face over there, and Ms. Mosby's been great to work with as well as all, and I agree with what Mr. Hartley said. So. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Asbury? And Ms. Patsy Briley.
Yes, I was just going to say I'm glad they got reappointed. If they feel that they cannot continue with their appointment, I would be glad to take the vacancy.
Any questions for Ms. Briley? Thank you, Ms. Briley.
Thank you.
Here we have 2 positions and we have 3 applicants. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve approve all 3 and vote for 2.
We have a motion. We have a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Ms. Becky, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Black,
Miss Mosby and Miss Briley.
Commissioner Farley,
Ms. Mosby and Mr. Asbury.
Commissioner Gooch,
Mrs. Mosby and Mr. Asbury.
Commissioner Jordan,
Ms. Mosby and Mr. Asbury.
Commissioner Sandlin,
Ms. Mosby and Mr. Asbury.
Commissioner Stevens,
Miss Mosby and Miss, I'm sorry, I just forgot her name. Miss Briley.
Commissioner Coggin,
Mosby and Asbury.
Mosby with 7, Asbury with 5, and Briley with 2.
Mosby and Asbury then. I'd like to thank all 3 of you for your willingness to serve our county. I'd like to ask Ms. Mosby and Mr. Asbury, if you will, to come to our November County Commission meeting where you'll be voted on for final approval by the full commission. Next, we need to announce 4 vacancies on the Agricultural Committee. Those will be for 2 commissioners, 1 farmer, and 1 farm woman.
17.
And then now we need to, our third item is GIS software interlocal agreement. Brian, do you have?
Mr. Robertson.
Mr. Robertson?
And maybe if I could ask Mr. Cawthorn to come
Mr.
forward
Cawthorn, yeah.
as well, yes.
There he is, sure.
Let's see, do you all have a copy of this interagency agreement yet? I wasn't sure if you did or not. Okay.
Great.
Hit the microphone. All right, you have before you an interagency agreement with Environmental Systems Research Institute. We refer to them as ESRI, so that we don't have to say that entire name. During the budget process, some of you may or may not recall that we asked for, the mayor recommended and the commission approved $220,000 in the GIS line item, capital equipment line item, capital line item for combined municipal expenditure of $220,000, about $100,000 of which would actually come from direct contributions from the City of Murfreesboro, Town of Smyrna, and City of Laverne to pay for a portion of this their portion of this interlocal agreement. In terms of business impact, this is nothing more than an enterprise license agreement with a vendor who wants to have the security of one signatory, that being Rutherford County. In terms of financial impact, it prevents the municipalities and Rutherford County from having volatility in the licenses that are available for us day in and day out. As projects come down the pike, we are able to use the entire ESRI product line instead of being limited to those products which we have previously purchased. And that will ultimately result in increased functionality for all four partners, or really 5 partners, because the Emergency Communications District would also participate. And also cost savings ultimately. We looked at what each participating agency was going to be spending in the coming 5 years on software with ESRI, and looked at the cost of an enterprise license agreement that would level out that cost, and again liberate everyone to use the entire product line in our GIS use day in and day out. Mr. Cawthorn, I believe, drafted the interagency agreement. We've spoken with the municipalities, each of whom have strong interest in pursuing this, and the few issues that we've found, we've been able to iron out, I believe, in a satisfactory manner. Mr. Cawthorn, would you like to sort of describe it from your standpoint?
I guess kind of where we are at this point. We have not gotten definitive word back from the municipalities to this point. They're kind of, there's a little bit of a stasis at this point, kind of figuring out where we are with this move forward on this tonight. It would probably be advisable to pass a condition on the acceptance of these other agencies actually passing. Again, I've been in most contact with Murfreesboro, and they're very excited about it. The documents got misplaced over there, so I had to resend them again today. So hopefully they're going to be getting back to me as far as the form, etc. There's nothing, as far as I'm concerned and aware of, there's nothing overly onerous in this document. It's just really trying to pass our ESRI benefits onto the rest of the component municipalities, etc. here in Rutherford County. So if you'll have any questions.
I've got one. What's this going? What kind of product? What are they going to be doing it and using it for?
Everyone is already using ESRI and using multiple multiple dozens of various ESRI modules. Our planning departments use ESRI, all four. We use it in our dispatch centers. In so many ways, it's hard for me to even itemize all the ways.
So it's more, it's a planning tool, it's a public safety tool. Is there any other benefits to it other than those two?
It's almost countless. Every facet really of how we operate, I think, has been impacted in some way or another. Our school system is using it. Part of the data that we derive in the county government is utilized in the school system by a full-time GIS analyst over there to watch student demographic changes and so forth. Commissioner, just countless ways.
And I just want to make sure that the TV people and the audience out there understands, because I don't think it was really said a while ago what it was basically for, or actually what the benefits would actually be.
Sure.
So.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yes, this really impacts just about every aspect of county government. We use it to present things to you all. It was used during the redistricting process, as you're aware, very extensively to make sure that we fairly and equitably redistributed the commission districts. Just countless ways. It's being utilized in the election commission as we speak to look at the precincts, the way those were laid out. So
it's going to benefit county residents and also county residents that live inside municipalities.
Absolutely.
So a little bit more background. Typically, the Rutherford County and municipalities have been getting access to this document through a contract that ESRI has with the state of Tennessee. The recent federal census has kind of moved Rutherford County and Murfreesboro and Smyrna and Laverne outside of the eligibility for that ESRI contract with the state of Tennessee. And because it provides core functionality for a lot of the inner workings of our agencies, it's something that it's very necessary to have a contract, and ESRI has been fairly kind with us as far as working with us. We're on the low end of population of that generally with the sole signatory type stuff.
It's just a point of all the municipalities going along with it. And that hasn't been done yet. We're the first one to see it and go through it, even though we've already talked about it.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I see the benefit. I would make a motion that we approve this and also ask that the other municipalities join us on board with this.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Black. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And since we got the city mayor from Laverne here tonight, I personally asked him.
This may be your first time coming in.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I have a topic under other business that involves OIT and the county attorney. Could I do that now while they're here? I don't know if they had to leave.
Is the committee okay with that?
That's fine with me.
I think that'll be fine.
Thank you. I know that, and as you know, that the county commissioners have their own personal email address. And I got an email from County Attorney Mr. Cope that when there's a request for freedom of information, that it may be easier if we had a county-issued email address. I know most legislators do have a state-issued email address or federal or whatnot. And we just want to bring up the topic to see what it would take, it would be cost efficient, that the county commissioners have a county-issued email address.
It would be easily accomplished from a technical standpoint, Commissioner, and in fact would actually alleviate some of the logistics involved with how we handle your web comments right now, particularly if every commissioner would be given one and utilize that as their sole means of receiving information, which is distributed electronically. So the web citizen comments and other communications with the various board secretaries and so forth to be conducted through that uniform email account would actually be very an improvement from our standpoint, because we have to manually handle those.
Right. I don't know if we need a motion, but could I just suggest that the OIT and maybe the mayor get together and see if we could put something forward, or?
Yeah, I think that'd be, I don't think we need a motion to that effect. I think we just ask you to look at that, see if we can get that done.
I can do. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you all. Next, we have the road board and school board zones discussion. I'd like to first ask the mayor and county attorney, Mr. Cope, to kind of come up and give us a little history lesson, if you will, or an update.
We'll get down here, but it won't be on that.
As to some of the things, and then and see where we are after that.
We don't have an official report. I can tell you that Mr. Cope and Ms. Lester and I have met 3 or 4 or 5 times trying to review the history of our private acts and how the current zones with respect to the road board and the school board have gotten to where they are currently, and that's been a difficult task. And if you look at the private acts currently, the road board zones are not what we're currently using. If you look at the private act, you'll also see that they allow for the Board of Commissioners, instead the legislative body at that time, but to make changes to those zones as they choose from time to time. And they have made those changes on 1 or 2 occasions. Ms. Lester has made an enormous amount of effort researching the archives and the history of all this, just to be sure that where we have landed is the right place and where we should be. So, saying all that to say, what we've been trying to do, essentially, since it's confusing if you read those private acts to any person, especially those of us that weren't here when those were created, and essentially many of us weren't here when they actually made these changes. So we've just tried to get some good factual information about how we've taken this particular journey, and we're just about there. She's not here with us tonight, as you well know, since they're having the election commission meeting. One of the other things that, even though the 3 commission districts that comprise each of the zones are the same, the zone numbers are different currently, and that's confusing. Zone 3 in the road board might be zone 6 in the school board, but it would still have the same 3 commission districts identified there. Saying all that to say, we have been sort of struggling towards this as a first step, clean up the private acts and do something that would make these zone numbers the same zone number, so it wouldn't be so confusing. Zone 1 would be, for road board, would be zone 1 for school board with the same 3. And Mr. Cope has worked on that, and Nicole has given us a lot of input. That can be done, and that can be done rather simply with a change in the private act. And we will tell you that there's a little bit of a difficulty that even today, I know Ms. Lester's researching this. That's one reason neither one of us are quite equipped in full to tell you what we think we ought to do and how we should do it. In that, we had started off on the journey of just saying that the school board zones would be the one we'd use for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we would match up the road boards with those. That being the case, we should tell you that every 2 years we're on an election cycle. 3, let's say in 2012 we're going to elect 3 road board, and in 2014 4. So it's 3 on, and the next 2 years it's 4. To clean these up and to make these compatible and exactly the same, there would have to be some sort of initial startup period here whereby 2 of the zones would not fall out perfectly. In other words, you cannot abridge the terms of a person that's already holding office. So we'd have to either make 2 of those zones for the road board, either a short 2-year period or a long 6-year period. We don't know exactly yet what is legal there or how that should be handled, but there is a little bit of a nuance yet that we hadn't got our arms around. We just haven't had time. giving you a report that we're, on that particular part of the journey, we're far, far down the road, and with a little bit more input from Ms. Lester, who I know is today even been to Nashville, over the next week or so, we'll probably know how we should pursue that in that simplistic kind of manner. Now, the other issues that have brought forth the need for you guys to put this on this agenda tonight are completely independent of all of that. So, I don't know, is there anything else, Mr. Cope, we want to say just in general? We've wrestled with that, and we've come to some good understanding and findings factually about how we can pursue this.
During the, go ahead.
Jim, what we've got right now and what we've been doing on that, are we legal?
Yeah, you're legal, but you've got some confusing situations, as the mayor pointed out, and I think there is as the mayor noted, two different issues. I think one issue that brought this to the committee tonight is about whether the school board zones, all of them, and the road board zones ought to all be contiguous to one another, and that's an issue I'm sure you're going to discuss. We're not here necessarily to address that pro or con. That's just on the table for you all to address. The second issue that the mayor was addressing is we've got a lot of confusion with the road board numbers, zone numbers being different than the school board zone numbers. And to the extent they are all composed of the same commission districts, it would be preferable to have all of those zone numbers line up where they're the same both for the road board and the school board.
So that would be just a small
We can do that.
change.
We can do that without amending the private act. You can do that. The private act specifies that you as commissioners have the right to, in effect, redistrict and realign those zones. So you can accomplish that. I think rather than going into this tonight to reaccomplish that, though, you probably ought to have this put together as a package for all of this to be addressed. The second part of what the mayor was addressing is there apparently is some inadvertence through the years with the election commission on the terms of some of these road board and school board members not being exactly lined up. They're staggered incorrectly. In order to get those straightened out, and that's what we're still waiting to hear back from the state on, we would probably need to amend the private act because we don't have the authority to change those terms of office internally. They would have to be done appropriately by private act. And that can likewise be accomplished, but we're not ready to bring forward to you tonight how that staggering would occur with those terms. So as to the zone thing and the staggering of the terms to line them up appropriately, that would await another night. This tonight, if you want to talk about the contiguous nature of things, we can address that, but I didn't want to mix those as the mayor's saying.
So it's actually two separate issues.
I think it is, correct. I think you certainly need to address it separately. It's all part of a big picture
One
on
issue
road board and school board.
doesn't coincide with another issue.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah, a little bit better introduction to this discussion might have been to let you all know, we kind of wanted to divide this up into two separate parts. This is kind of one part, since we had this on the agenda, kind of one part that had been working on that I thought it'd be good to hear an update that it is being worked on. But then also, since we probably need the county attorney here anyway, go ahead and put it on the agenda. And if we're ready, if we're through with that part and that update, and I appreciate you giving that to us, we can move to the second part, and I'd like to go ahead.
Well, I just had one question. When we were in the redistricting process, we had talked about a cleanup that may be timing for it since we're redistricting every 10 years, that this may be the timing to really clean up the private act a little bit. Nicole Lester, the election administrator, has looked at the part of, as far as like either zone 1 doesn't line up, like you said, with the road board and the school board, lining up in as far as like an election would be made as far as zone 1 or area 1 with these 3 districts. And so that's the cleanup that you're talking about making. As far as us redistricting and what we've done as a redistricting committee and county commission, that's not part of this issue.
Not part of what the mayor and I just
Yeah, that's
talked
what I'm talking
about.
about. That's what I'm talking about.
Correct.
So this right here is really on an elected type situation, really from the election commission, what we're really needing to clean up as far as the terminology in those districts. Because talking with some road board members and I haven't gotten a hold of everybody as far as a callback or whatever, but as far as school board too, their statements to me is, well, we're representing these 3 districts. I want to continue representing these 3 districts. I'm still going to be able to do that, correct? And I said, Yes. As far as what we've done already, yes. That's what we want to do. And it's, well, it doesn't matter to me. These are still the 3 districts I'm representing. These are the 3 districts I want to continue representing. Yes. And I've made that statement, yes. So I want to make sure I'm saying yes is right as far as that. Now, whether it's going to be staggered differently or called Area 1 or Zone 1 within those 3, that's a different story. And really, that's just the paper end of it, or the legality part of it, with the election that will be held in future years.
We want to get this sort of cleaned up.
Yes.
So when the next mayor and the next county attorney and the next set of commissioners, when they read those private acts,
it's clear.
It's clear. Right now, we have spent an inordinate amount of time trying to figure this out.
I got you. Well, and one of our questions in the redistrict committee, as far as the being contiguous.
Now that you're moving into the next area,
That's the
which
next
if you're
area.
ready to talk about that, that's fine, but don't mix these apples and
All right,
oranges,
all right.
because we don't want to.
If we're ready, I would like to ask you then about contiguous.
Okay.
So what's on the books now as far as contiguous, and what we've done as redistricting, is that in our legalities of what we've done correct or not?
Well, you're correct now. You have no
Okay.
problem. With the redrafting, if you combine the county commission districts now into the zones that are being talked about, you would have one zone that is not contiguous, and I guess that is the zone that connects commission districts 8, 9, and 10, which is being referred to potentially as school district zone 4 and road district zone 4. And commission district 8 does not touch district 9 and 10. They are separated by district 20, I believe, is the one that intervenes there. So they're not contiguous. And you certainly have the right to address that. As far as legalities are concerned, and I talked with with election officials today, the state statute only mandates that county commission districts be contiguous when you do those. The state statute that requires reapportionment, which is found under Title 5.11, talks only about county commission districts being contiguous. It does not mandate that combined districts for school and road board be contiguous. Having said that, there is a U.S. Supreme Court case, Shaw versus Reno, that when it talks about one person, one vote, does talk about a number of different factors that you like to accomplish when you redistrict and realign and reapportion. And one of those is appearances, and appearances do include geographic contiguity. And so optimally, that would be a worthwhile result to achieve. If you fail to achieve that, are you illegal? Not under state law. You would not be illegal. I doubt someone would be able to sustain a challenge to the fact if you didn't connect those districts. I don't think someone would be able to legally set aside that on the basis of the fact they don't touch. I think that it would probably have to rise to a level of a racial disparity, something that would result in that as opposed to just a geographical connection. Having said that, certainly it's a desirable goal to have districts be contiguous.
True.
So if you want to work towards that and can accomplish that, that's in your prerogative. I don't express an opinion one way or another whether you do it or don't do it. I think you're legal either way.
Well, I think the redistricting committee and IT department and everything worked very diligently on trying to work in this manner, especially all of the facets you just mentioned, and plus 3 or 4.
And I might interrupt to say that, again, I'm expressing a legal standard.
Yes.
That has nothing to do with the optimum interest politically of the various constituents that may desire to be connected in a contiguous fashion, even though legally they might not have to be. It may be that they desire it. It may be that it's achievable. It may be that it's needed. Again, I'm not expressing an opinion on that. That's for you all to decide as a county commission.
Well, when I brought this up to the road board members I've talked to and school board members I've talked to, within like a 3-district type situation, they're still going to represent those people in those 3 districts. But whether it's any one of those districts or like a personal district of mine or any other commissioner or whatever, all of our constituents, so let's just take District 9 for instance, is not going to be going to school in the schools in that district. They're going to be going to schools outside of that district because either you don't have a school there or they're not going to be zoned for that school. So the zoning is going to be within the school board realm of, so everybody in District 8, 9, and 10 then, for instance, is not going to be going to just schools in 8, 9, and 10. They're going to have to go to schools outside that district because it's closer to that other school, or they're going to be zoned for that other school. Same thing as roads. That road's going to be contiguous going through how many of our districts, but they're going to represent that area of roads in those 3 districts. So the argument doesn't hold water, so to speak, whenever if you're trying to represent these people in these school zones and these roads, because that road is going to continue through where you're going to have to do maintenance and everything, as well as the people that's going to school, the kids that are going to school, they're going to be going outside of your zone or your district to go to school. That's just the zoning of the school board. So,
before we get much deeper in this discussion, Commissioner Tiffany Phillips called a couple weeks ago and wanted to kind of discuss this with the committee. So, Commissioner Phillips, if you would like to address the committee and any of your thoughts or concerns on this, since this directly affects your district.
Thank you. You have a packet that you received at the beginning of, before the meeting started. I just kind of want to show you what this looks like, just in case some of you haven't looked at it. District 8, which is the purple down in the southwestern corner of the county, and then districts 9 and 10 are cut off by District 20, Commissioner Gooch's district. This was something that just kind of inadvertently happened. I don't think we necessarily realized that that was going to happen because of the numbering on the school board whenever we were doing the redistricting plan. The issues with this zone not being contiguous is, number one, if someone wants to run for the school board or the road board zone, I think that it's going to be a little bit more difficult for somebody from the District 8 to win an election, just simply because the other 2 commission districts are from the Laverne and Smyrna area, and they're very, more compact, a smaller area, more people in a smaller area there. Also, it's going to create an issue. I'm concerned with representation whenever we do have a new election, and we might have a different school board member or road board member for the area. So I really feel like to best serve our constituents and our residents of the county, that our road boards and our school board need to have contiguous zones. Especially if you're looking at the 3, because you have 2 in one grouping and then 1 in another grouping that have been cut off. Does that make sense?
are you looking at this first one?
Yes, this is road board. The second one is the school board, though. But they are the same numbers, district numbers, commission district numbers. So it's going to kind of look the same a little bit. Also on these 2 maps, Mr. Curtis printed off for me today. They have the names of the road board or school board members on there and where they live.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
If Mr. Curtis printed them off for you, why does it say it's prepared for the request of Robert Stevens Commission?
Okay, I already had a meeting with Mr. Curtis set up, and he had forwarded 3 proposals that he had come up with by himself, and to Mr. Curtis. And he had those on his computer, and I had taken a look at those when I had my meeting already set up. I just glanced at them and I said, well, why, would you mind printing these off for me? And I'll just include those in the packet. And I think he's going to address that a little bit later. Is that?
So, did you and Commissioner Stevens work together on this?
No, sir. No, sir. These are just 3 options that we could take a look at. If I may, I also have a letter from Mayor Toon, Eagleville's mayor, that he asked for me to read. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. He could not be here tonight due to a conflict. Chairman Adam Coggan and Steering Committee, please accept my apology for not attending tonight's Steering Committee meeting in person. Due to conflicting schedules, I will be unable to attend. Just as with many other Rutherford County residents, I have great concern about the proposed redistricting of our school zones. Of all my experience on different county and city committees, anytime zoning, rezoning, or annexation is considered, the first and most often word used is contiguous. This only makes good sense as it provides better communication and representation to all parties involved. As you are all aware of Eagleville's unique location, the furthest most extreme southwest corner of Rutherford County, the proposed rezoning will only put us on an island. We are bordered by the south by Rutherford County, west by Marshall County, and to the north, Williamson County. Because of this, we will be isolated from the remaining zone in which we are to be represented. Here are some of my concerns in regards to rezoning. Will our Eagleville school have equal and fair representation in comparison to the larger school districts? How will the quality of education be affected for the students in Eagleville? Can we be assured that they will not offer as a consequence of redistricting? They will not suffer as a consequence of redistricting. I am concerned that the overall loyalty of teachers, parents, and students will decline as they feel their representation will be focused on the larger, more populated areas of their school district. I asked you to please reconsider the rezoning proposal and keep Eagleville in a contiguous zone, as this would be only fair and equal for every citizen in Rutherford County. Sincerely, Sam Toon, Mayor of City of Eagleville.
Mr. Chairman, we also have the Mayor of Laverne here that is okay with the committee. I'd like to ask that she be allowed to address us also.
I was going to ask her a question first, though, Commissioner, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
I don't get it. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm a little slow tonight or something. I'm trying to understand what the issue is.
The issue is the district is not contiguous anymore. Think about your county commission district for a minute. And I ran into this when I was running for office 2 years ago. We have, in my district in particular, Amaville, very large area. Amaville was about almost 50%, about 40% of the district. And so it would be a little bit easier for someone from Amaville to get elected. Now, I was elected. There was 4 of us. Of course, I live in Midland, but I worked very hard in all 4 areas. But if somebody lives in the Laverne Smyrna area and is the school board member, it's a little bit harder now since we have an area that's being represented that's cutting off that other area. The issue is contiguity.
You take Eagleville and its population compared to, I mean, I think it's fair and equitable. It depends on whoever wants to run. I mean, that's the freedom of America. If you want to get out and run, just like you. If you saw it was harder to work in this area, then you worked harder in that area, and well, you achieved that because you're here. You know, you won. I don't get that. You know, when I talked to the school board representative here for 8, 9, and 10, which is me and you and one other commissioner, he said, I'm still going to represent this area until I get beat or I don't run again or whatever, and he's going to do the best job he's going to do, you know, in representing those people.
Until he's not there anymore.
Well.
So is he going to be there all the time, though?
Probably not. You're not going to be there the whole time.
You're exactly right.
I mean, we're not going to be there the whole time.
That's right. So we need to set it up to where it's fair and more equitable for the future.
With that argument, it goes against everything that you all voted for. It actually, with the same argument that you're arguing, you would need more county commissioners and more school board members if you want to narrow it down to
now, wait a second.
communities.
Who voted for what? We voted for what?
You voted for the 14.
No, sir, I did not. I voted for us to look at it a little bit longer. That was my complete entire stance. I never once told anybody that I supported the 14 district plan. I stood up and I said, we need to look at this longer so that we don't have this issue. so that we don't have issues like this. I wanted people to be able to look at that, the school board members, the road board members, to look at the plan and say, is there any problems with this? They didn't have time with 2 weeks. And excuse me, actually it was 1 week. And I said that night when we first voted on it, I said, let's wait, let's hold off. This is only a week for us to look at that.
Eagleville is still going to have the same representation that they, whether Wayne Blair is there or not, that person is going to represent that district, just like any of us are going to represent that district that we were elected to.
You're right, but it should not be an island. It should not be cut off. We do not need to, on purpose, cut off part of one district to the other part of the district. On purpose. We can fix it now. We're going to amend the Private Act anyways. Why not go ahead and fix it now?
We didn't say we were going to do it. That's in discussion. Nobody's decided it was what
Okay.
we were going to do.
We will probably amend the Private Act. Let's go ahead and fix it all at the same time.
Well, you were on the redistricting committee.
Yes, I was.
It took us 35 days, somewhat, 5 weeks, whatever, to redo the redistricting. You know, you voted for the plan.
I did vote for the
And-
plan on the committee, but that did not mean that I was ready for us to vote for it on the full commission. I said we needed to allow people to be able to look at this a little bit
I
longer.
understand. I understand.
My thoughts on it, Mr. Chair, is that if you've got someone in Laverne, say for example, that's elected to represent the zone, I think that they, whoever, if it's Mr. Blair or anyone in the future, would represent everyone who had a chance to vote for them, including Eagleville. That's kind of like saying to me, Memphis being upset because Senator Corker and Senator Alexander's from East Tennessee and that they wouldn't represent Memphis.
Right.
I think that they would represent the whole state the way someone from Laverne or Smyrna would represent the whole zone. And just from what I'm kind of hearing, and I'm not meaning this, but an attempt to get someone from Eagleville elected to school.
I would hope so too, but why are we going to take and we have a court case that says that we need to have contiguous districts for commission districts? Why would something that's good for our commission districts not be good for the road board or the school board zones?
When I first got elected, my first term, I represented the area that you live in.
Mm-hmm.
I lived on the far other side of to the county, just about, from that area that you're living in. I represented Midland as much as I did Salem or Barfield, because that was my district.
Mm-hmm.
And that person that gets elected to the school board or to the road board should do the same thing, because that's what they went out here and knocked on doors and asked people to vote for them to do. I don't think anybody in their right mind, unless they're crooked, is going to go out here and do right the opposite of that, in my opinion.
You're exactly right. They should. But once again, nobody's answered my question. Why would we ignore something that there's a court case that says this is good for commission districts? Why is it not good for school board, road board zones?
You just told Commissioner Sandlin that he was.
But just
illegal.
because something is legal, does that mean that that's good for the area?
Well, I mean, we could have moved 200 people or 300 people and made it connect. We could still do that, barely, to make it contiguous. But we and you chose not to on the redistricting committee.
Because we didn't realize this issue was there.
No,
And I'm not
we realized
saying-
that we were legally doing everything that the state required for us to do the redistricting process. And we went through every single law mandate that we were supposed to do in redistricting. We did that, totally.
You're exactly
And-
right.
and
But
that-
just
that
because
wrote-
something
that-
is legal, does that make that good for the area? Or do we need to go above and beyond and make it good for our citizens in the area?
That's true, but if you look at it with Commissioner Blair, that the roads, or actually school board representative, in all actuality, from where he lives, he shouldn't have been elected. From all this green down here, somebody down here that was running, I should have probably been elected from where he's at way up here, but He got out and worked just like you did, and got elected by the people, and he represents the people. I think he does a great
And
job.
that's what I'm sitting here trying to do too. We want to be a contiguous zone.
But you're not on the school board, you're on the county commission.
I'm still representing my people though on the county commission, and we're the ones that have to make this decision.
Mayor?
We can make a technical amendment, just like Commissioner Sandlin just said. It's very, very simple. It can be contiguous. We can take a small portion of that zone, District 20, put a little piece of it in 8, a little piece of it in 9. It still meets every technical plus or minus 5% test. It still meets the one man, one vote rule. Is that acceptable? It can be done. All you have to do, the Board of Commissioners only has to approve a slight amendment, a very, very, very slight amendment to what you've already approved,
It's
and you will be contiguous.
Probably the area that I wanted to keep in my district anyway.
No, it's the western most portion of that district.
You know?
Will make it whole, it'll make it contiguous. Is that acceptable?
Well, that would make it contiguous, but a part of some of the rules and the things that we looked at on part of rezoning, that still kind of makes it look like, you know, we kept hearing them say that appearances do count. You know, I mean, if that's what the commission wants to do, then that's fine. And that would fix the contiguous problem. But I feel like this really does, something needs to be fixed here. And I don't have the numbers on that area.
I feel apprehension in your voice by what you just said. So is it contiguous or is it not? What is the motive? I mean, I'm not understanding.
Yeah, contiguous is the motive here, but if you just take out that one little part, then we have a moon here. And so the other part of the issue is, which has not been brought up because we have not talked about changing our redistricting plan. We were only discussing here possibly changing the numbers that each zone represents.
But now you're talking about, he had offered a contiguous thing here, but there was apprehension on your side of going to that, and then you talk about it being, you don't like it because it's the moon.
Okay, because like I just said, I have not even thought about just changing part of that section. But if we did, when we were in our redistricting meetings, that would not have been okay either for a district to have a shape in that manner. I'm just saying, you know, let's look at these zones as we did as we looked at the redistricting zones for the commission.
Commissioner Stevens asked a few minutes ago for the mayor to come up and address the committee. Would you like to? Absolutely.
Can I just sit here? I'm loud.
Okay.
Well, it'd probably be better for the mics.
Right here? Okay.
Yeah, it would be.
I'm loud.
That's all right.
That's right. You can get a close up.
They'll turn it down a little bit.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'll give a brief history because I believe Mr. Sandlin and Ms. Cook were the only ones around back in 94, 95 when I became very involved in politics, and basically was during the school time.
She didn't have to date us, did she? She didn't have to do that.
Well, I'm telling my age as well. I believe Mr. Ragsdale was in at that particular time, and I love the theory. You can't beat the Wayne Blairs, the Rick Wises. We've been very blessed. But prior to those two gentlemen, we had no representation. None. Had it not been for Miss Cook at that time getting myself, my husband, and several other parents involved, we would not have what we had. We started with Cedar Grove, went from Cedar Grove to Rock Springs Elementary. At that point, I believe most of you knew there was an opening. You were on the board then where we did come, asked to put somebody on the board from the city of Laverne. That was denied. Mr. Wise was put on that board. Mr. Wise and I ran against each other in 2002 and became wonderful friends. I was very blessed during that election. He worked very hard, but he continued to allow me and a lot of the other parents to help in the fight for the Laverne Lake Elementary, Laverne Middle, new additions and roofs for the high school, along with Ms. Cook. So the theory of, people should represent the people in their districts, but they don't always. They're in Laverne. If you'll notice, during that election, you had District 5, which is Ms. Cook's district, and District 11 and 12. And I apologize, I don't know who those are at this point. I know Mr. Stevens, Commissioner Stevens. But at that time, you had two in Smyrna, one district in Laverne. There was no way it was going to happen. Same thing on the other side. You look at Mr. Blair's district now, very small portion in Laverne. Nobody from Laverne. We're blessed this time because nobody ran for school board other than Mr. Holliday, so we're blessed to have someone that actually lives in Laverne on that board right now.
Let me ask this, Mayor. So what you're saying is now even Laverne is what she's saying about Eagleville. So you're saying, so.
I mean, I'm just saying while y'all are looking at this, honey, I'm jumping on the boat and I'm saying let's make at least one district where somebody from Laverne can get on that board.
And that's where I'm heading here. I mean, there may be somebody that's unhappy. I wasn't particularly happy with my entire district, but that's the way it turned out. I didn't agree. There's some areas that I loved to keep, but due to growth in my district, I had to lose about 50% of my district.
Well, we've never had much to lose, so I can't sit here and argue with you because we never have nobody to lose from Laverne. We never had anybody that was district or zone just for Laverne. Again, if we didn't have the Wayne Blairs and the Rick Wise to come along when they did, we would still be Carol Cook and the commissioners up there and the parents fighting for that school. And Mr. Gill, he's been wonderful. Of course, I was there with Cedar Grove with him. We've been blessed, but we're not always going to have the Harry Gills and the Rick Wises. Of course, Rick is no longer there, but we have Mr. Holliday. Again, he does live in Laverne because nobody from Smyrna area ran against him. And Wayne, we're not always going to have the Waynes up there to represent us. So all I'm asking is while y'all are discussing this and while y'all are looking into this, to please consider making one of those areas primarily where somebody from Laverne is going to be on those school board, on the school board. That's all I'm asking while you're looking at this.
And it goes back to what I said a while ago. With this argument, it gives more of an argument to more people on these more government, bigger government, adding to the county commission, adding to the school boards.
Why are we adding? We're just redistricting to keep move the zones around.
The way you're talking is adding more Laverne, more Eagleville. And there may be somebody else out there.
Look at this map.
Wants to
How can Laverne get bigger? We're a dot.
What I'm saying is
we're a dot.
You're wanting someone there. She's wanting somebody in Eagleville. Well, hey, I want somebody in Salem. I want somebody here.
When you can draw those lines, when I've got a very small, I'm at the northern end, and you've got me split up to people that live in Murfreesboro, you can look at the map and see that's a very easy fix up there. Very easy fix. That's all I'm asking. And I mean, there again, you're not always going to have the mouths up here fighting. I mean, I'm going to get old one day and give up the fight and go retire with my husband. And he's praying that that's sooner than later. but I still feel this need to express our concerns. I didn't bring this up. Y'all started this, not me.
You just got invited.
I got invited.
I guess my thoughts, Madam Mayor, if you're jumping on the boat, then it seems like next week, someone from Blackman's going to jump on the boat, someone from Kitchell's going to jump on the boat to try to work things and make sure someone from Kitchell gets elected, make sure someone from Blackman gets elected. I think we just got to set the zones and let people run and trust in democracy that these people's going to represent their district and their zones.
And I agree there, but we've
And-
never had a fighting chance. If you see that little dot up there is comparison to all the big Blackman
Let me
area,
ask you this.
all of that
Ha-
area.
ha- In the
All
last,
I'm asking is for Laverne.
in the last 10 years, how many schools have been built in the Laverne area?
Well, we're supposed to got a high school we never got, but
How
we've
many
got,
schools have been built?
which Cedar Grove, that's Smyrna. That is Smyrna.
Does Laverne kids go there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I sit in the middle of the oldest section of Laverne, and my kids got shipped to Smyrna.
But what I'm saying, my
And-
point is, there's been a lot of brick and mortar that's been put into the.
Had it
in
not
the
been for
Laverne.
that lady right there and
No.
that man right
No.
there fighting,
There's oth-
it'd have been ignored.
There's other commissioners up here that have voted for that, to build those schools
But
down
she
there.
started it.
No,
She started
She wasn't the
it.
only one.
And we got on, I stood there with Ragsdale and all of them fighting. They were gonna make us a multi-tracking, year-round school where your kid would come in at 9 months, mine go out, and I was there. I was there on that fight from the beginning. I had a chair with my name on it.
But my point is, there's other people that have fought the fight with you, and it wasn't just one school board member or one county commissioner. There's been multitudes
But
of those
we
people.
had to fight for it. We had to fight for it. And you know as well as I do, I sit up there and I begged. I made a lot of phone calls. Y'all were tired of seeing me. Y'all were tired of hearing
we
from
weren't
me.
tired of seeing you.
Yeah. I mean, but we had to work and beg for this. And, you know, all I'm saying is while y'all are looking at this, we've got Laverne. It's a little bitty corner up there. Cut it off and give them their own. I mean, that's all I'm saying. That's not much when we're already there. And we've got our little bitty area so split up. Make us one area up there. That's all I'm asking.
Well, we had to go by the guidelines of the state, like we've been saying, of equal representation. Male, female, black, white, Republican, Democrat, all that was out the window. You had to be consistent across Rutherford County, across this whole thing. And we had a 5-board board to end up being 11-member board, which we had election representatives, Republican and Democrat. We had male and female. We had black and white. We had men and women representing county commissioners, representing on this board. And that part has already been done. The redistricting part has been done, and we did it by the guidelines through the state and beyond that, because a lot of things come into that factor. And we made sure, the IT department made sure that that we went by those guidelines as well. And so it is kind of different when you have that department saying it would be better, Commissioner, if you lived over here because it would make this a lot better. But when you had to put the road board in there, member, you had to put the school board member in there, and you had to have the county commissioner. We all had 3 and be in that in those districts that we had to be represented. And so when you put all those other variables in there, and plus our tweaking, we tweaked, that was my famous word, tweaked. We had to tweak it to make sure that we got those numbers in there correctly. So, and we've done that. So if we need to do something else on the election commission side, I mean, we will definitely do that to clean up what we've got. But as far as pulling out Laverne by themselves, we couldn't do that. We couldn't pull Murfreesboro out by themselves or Eagleville out by
I'm
themselves.
not
or,
asking to be pulled out by myself. I'm saying to realign that so it guarantees me that somebody that lives up there is going to represent our children on that school board. That's what I'm asking. And I know what you're saying, well, so I can get out and work and do, yes, that's all well and fine. But for years, it's always been somebody from Smyrna, and I have a wonderful relationship with the people there. But I go back to the years when we had nobody. You call them and they'd say, how did you get my number, and hang up on us. Now that happened more than one time, and I won't call any names, but
I
you
guess
know,
that's
that
why
happened.
they were, I guess that's why they were replaced.
Exactly.
You know?
And we've
But
had
that's-
people.
That's what happens.
And,
you know?
but, you know, when we're sitting up there, in no way am I always going to be assured, just like all the other districts, though. And you look at how large those are, and you look at that little bitty spot up there, when really I'm at almost 33,000 people now, and a lot of schools. So I'm just asking to please, while you're looking at this, to consider what you're doing to the northern end of the county, as well as Smyrna. I mean, they have to be represented as well. And I think between the two of us up there and what we have, that can be done. I mean, I'm not asking for 5. I'm just asking for one of them that's up there to have to live in Laverne. That's all I'm asking.
Well,
You know, and that's ones we've already got. So, I mean, I'm not asking for any more.
I understand.
I mean, if I was up here saying I want all 3 of them, for sure, we would have a problem. And I'm not. So, I just say, when you're looking at this, I didn't bring all this up. County Commission did. I just jumped on the boat.
The county commission didn't, a couple of commissioners have brought it up.
So, and, hey, it's been brought out. I'm here to get my piece of the pie up there for my city. That's
Right.
what I'm,
And I respect that.
you know, I've been on that fight for a long time. And it's been a long, hard battle since 1994. So, and I thank y'all for listening to me.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you for
I
coming.
didn't get too loud, I don't think.
No, you didn't.
Thank y'all so much.
Thanks.
All right.
Can we look at the map up there?
Sure.
It's hard to see all the
Forgot you brought a
colors.
slideshow.
Preliminary.
These are the districts.
That's
that
what
we-
this is.
That's the current ones that there are now. Like that's the way they are right now, yes. I think it's the next page, actually. He printed out one with the road board and one with the school board. They're exactly the same. They had different colors.
So this is right, what you just handed me, just a second ago.
When you came to the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's actually page 2 that was
Oh,
up there on
okay.
the screen.
Okay. That's
But
what I'm asking
Page 1
now.
is the same thing, it just
All
has
right,
the road board.
I got a question.
That was all?
Did y'all work on this together? Because, I mean, because I thought one was giving the presentation while ago. Now, you're giving the presentation on the same map.
Okay, I thought I answered that, but let me answer it again. Mr. Stevens, Commissioner Stevens, he realized this issue, and he called me and I said, oh, that is an issue. And so he started working on it. He's done most of the work on it. I've talked to a couple of people, and I went up there and I looked at maps at 3:45 today. My appointment was at, I got there at 3:30. And these maps are stuff that he had gotten together. And so I looked at them and I said, well, let's go ahead and print them off, and I'll put them in a packet. Other than that, have we worked on it together? No. This is the first time, 345 was the first time that I saw these numbers and these maps.
My problem with the way that the districts are currently set up is that they just don't make sense. You have North Laverne, the Lake Forest area in the same school board zone as Milton and Las Casas, and those areas have nothing in common. One of our goals in the redistricting process was compactness and trying to keep areas of common interest together, if I recall correctly. And even Mr. Kelly said in the newspaper this morning that those areas have different interests, and it's an interesting mix. I think that was his quote.
Commissioner Stevens, we don't have anything to do with school board zones. School board does the school board zones.
No, we can regroup the commission districts into different school board zones as we see fit.
One comment. I think every citizen in this county has the same interest in educating children. Now, that's a common interest, a very fundamental common interest. When we get past that, I just don't quite get it.
Yeah, yeah.
If Mr. Kelly, who's a friend of mine, if he had problems with this, he had 6 weeks to address it. I never saw him up here. I don't believe except for Wayne Blair one time, I don't believe I've ever seen a school board member up here during the redistricting meeting. Am I right or wrong?
No, we notified all the school board members and all the road board members about the redistricting plan, and then they had an opportunity to come and ask us to do anything different or tweak it or adjust it. So
I certainly agree that Milton, and in fact I used to live in Milton, Las Casas, Milton area, it has very little in common with the city of Laverne. I certainly agree with that. But if that was a problem, this is the first, and something that needed to be fixed, This is the first I've heard of it.
Well, this all originated with a phone call to me that had the main problem with this is that the two are separated. And
Who called you?
do what now?
Who called you?
I'm not gonna say who gave me a phone call. I don't know if they would want me to tell you that on the camera or not.
Is it an elected official?
No, it was not an elected official. It was a city. And then I looked at it, and then I started researching into this map further, and you just look at it, and it just doesn't make sense. We can group the districts in Laverne together to have a primarily Laverne district. We can group the Smyrna area districts together to have a primarily Smyrna district. And of course, Murfreesboro would have 2 or 3, and then there'd be 2 rural ones. But it doesn't make sense to have North Laverne and Milton in the same zone, and to have Laverne and Eagleville in the same zone. And then this district over here, I'm not sure what zone number it is, but you've got Kittrell and all the way down to the southeast part of the county, and then it cuts over.
You're talking about, you're saying the heading right here, preliminary 2010 school board zones. This is the school board representative representing these 3 districts. Is that what you're saying?
That is how it is right now.
Yes.
This is the way it is now. And my suggestion to you is that there's not any logic to this.
And it's the way it's been set up for how many years?
Well, that's a question that we don't quite have an answer to. When the numbers and groups districts were first assigned, there probably was some reason to them.
I know it's been this way for 20 years at least. That's how long I've been here.
Well, that doesn't necessarily make it right.
I understand that.
Just
but
because we've always done something one way doesn't mean that we always have to do it that way in the future.
Well, that's where our state statute reads, so that's why we did it again that
Our
way.
state statute says, in a little paragraph at the bottom, the county commission has the authority when it does redistricting.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the state statute says that, and the redistricting committee chose to do what the state statute says, and that's what we
What
did.
state statute are you talking about?
I'm talking about in the way that these 3 are set up, in road board and school board.
The private act?
The private act.
If you read it, I've got it on my computer.
And we can change it. I'm saying that's what we've decided to do.
What's in the private act and what we're doing now are not the same thing. And that goes back over to the first issue that they brought up in the first place, was that the private act and what we're doing now aren't the same thing, and they're antiquated and
So,
need to be updated.
but their issue doesn't coincide with your issue.
Right, but he brought it into it. He
No.
said that you follow the private act to get what we've got now. And no, you didn't. The private act is from 1951 and 1968 and 1972. And it's been changed. The districts were changed at some point after that to what we have now. And what they were suggesting when they first came in here was that we need to modify those private acts to clean them up and to make them what we're doing now and get them on the same track. That has nothing to do with these groupings of districts.
That's right. It has nothing to do with redistricting whatsoever.
There's a little clause at the bottom that says that the commission in the future can regroup the school board and road board zones together, provided that the district lines for those zones follow the commission districts exactly. You have 3 in a group together. And so we can regroup those by that private act without any problem at all, because it's been done before. We're not doing anything illegal. And the redistricting committee did not follow those numbers that are on the private act exactly, because it's not the same.
But
It
I don't see how we can
Yes.
do the whole county that
It
way,
is.
because I'm looking at, for example, Tim Tackett, looks like he lives in Murfreesboro, but he's going to be representing Florence, Blackman, looks like some of
All the way up
Almaville,
to
who has nothing in common other than the want to educate the kids. And I don't see how, if you're going to regroup Smyrna Laverne, do we got to go and regroup the whole county? I trusted, in the same as Mr. Tackett, is going to trust the democratic process and represent everyone that they vote for. It's like the mayor said, these communities may have very little in common, but the one thing that they do have in common is the love for the kids and want to give them the best education possible. Whether you live in Christiana, Laverne, same. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, this was the first proposal that I came up with, and I spent several hours looking at these combinations of districts. This wasn't something that was just done willy-nilly. I mean, this took a lot of thought, because the people who were just elected to the school board and road board in 2010 have to be able to serve their 4-year term. We cannot abridge those terms and make them run an election next year. So this plan took that into consideration. And it also grouped the districts together in a way that how can anyone deny that this does not look 10 times more logical than that monstrosity that was just on screen? This has two of Laverne together, and of course mine's in that one, which has part of Laverne in it. You've got two that are primarily Smyrna, and of course Commissioner Sandlin's area there, which has part of Smyrna and a little bit of Blackman area in it. You've got the southwest quadrant of the county, which is primarily rural, except that little area around Commissioner Farley's area, except Murfreesboro. Then you've got the southeast quadrant of the county in a zone. You've got the northeast quadrant in the zone. And then you've got in the top, in the middle there, North Murfreesboro, and that goes all at the top of the county. But this, to me, makes so much more sense to have Laverne's citizens represented by a school board member from Laverne who can focus his attention on the Laverne schools.
Or hers.
Or hers. In this case, it's his. If we regroup it this way, Mr. Holliday can focus on the Laverne schools. And he won't have to worry about driving all the way to Milton and worrying about their schools. And then you've got the same thing with the Smyrna district. Mr. Blair would be able to look at the Smyrna schools and advocate for them. And then every other district is going to have more similar interests than the ones that we have now. And all I'm suggesting to you is while we're thinking about amending this private act, let's consider a plan that's logical and that in 10 years will still hopefully make some sense. Because the districts that we have in place now, you just got areas that don't have anything in common and they just don't make sense. And it's not fair to have Laverne in 3 different school board zones. My suspicion is that that was done to water their influence down to where they couldn't have someone on the school board.
I want to make
That's just a suspicion.
one comment. Laverne basically is big enough for basically 3 commission districts now, 36,000 people. It's 3 districts. They have an opportunity now with the right 3 people to elect 3 people to the school board. Not 1, 3.
Well, when you've got
Right now,
when you've got
under the existing plan we have.
you've got 1/3 living in North Laverne and you've got 2/3 living in the rural area. Now, where would you focus your attention? Would you throw the quote unquote bacon to the people in the rural area, or are you going to throw it to the people in Lake Forest and Laverne?
They're all people.
I know they're all.
They're all people in Rutherford County. You have to represent them all. You don't. That's the problem with redistricting. You can't decide which people you're going to represent, which people you're not.
That's how it's
illegal, and you can't do
That's how
it.
it's going to happen.
Plus, do you want to do that? No. As a politician, no.
You have
need to get
divided-
out if you're going to do that.
You have divided loyalties. That district, if Mr. Blair is not there next time, you're going to have somebody from the Smyrna or North Blackman area that gets elected to the school board. And if it comes down to allocation of money to that area or to the Eagleville area, which one would you choose to spend the money on?
Go ahead with your presentation, because right now it makes no sense whatsoever. Go ahead. Go ahead.
All I'm suggesting to you is if we regroup these districts in this way, it looks logical, we can do it in a package with our private act and change everything and make it simpler and more logical. How can you not look at this map and tell me that's not more logical? Tell me that.
What else you got to say?
I want you to tell me that this map doesn't look more logical.
I want you to make some sense, and I'll be glad to comment.
This map makes sense. Look at it. How does that map not make more
When
sense?
Laverne can represent the school board in 3 positions, does that make sense?
You've got a sliver of Laverne in the district.
That is the
Mr. Blair-
thing about this free country right here, is that if you decide to jump out there and run, you got to jump out there and run and win, just like this lady right here did. Just like this lady did. Just like all of us here that's been elected, we've got out there and we ran. And we knocked on those doors and asked people for their vote. That's how you get elected. You don't draw the lines the way you want to be elected and then jump in somewhere where you're knowing you're going to be elected because you drew the lines that way. That's totally illegal and you can't do it.
Well, that's how it happens. When you're running for office, I know
No,
you're
that's not
running
how
for-
it happens. That's what we represented this county fairly and equally in redistricting these 21 districts.
The 21 districts have nothing to do with these zones. What I'm telling you is if you're running for an office, people ask me, where do you live? Where do you live? If I'm running for that school board zone that Mr. Blair represents, and I live in Smyrna, and somebody comes to my door and says they live in Eagleville, but somebody else is from Smyrna that is running, I want to worry about my kids in the Smyrna district. So I want somebody from Smyrna advocating for me, not somebody from Eagleville. It makes a difference.
That's when he gets to run money from Smyrna to run.
Well, then that's gonna eliminate somebody from Eagleville from running.
And thank
No, you can't
goodness,
get more than one person can run in an election.
And you think somebody that lives down in the minority part of the district is gonna have a chance to win when you've got 2/3 of the island?
that's what makes this country free, and that's what.
She lives down in the most rural area in that district, and she won
Easily.
easily.
But it's all close there together. They've got some common interests.
That doesn't float. Go ahead.
And here's this. She beat, one of the persons that she beat lived in the Abbeville area that was the most populated area, and she won.
It's because you didn't do anything in the other three.
It's maybe because you worked hard.
Well,
Mr. Chairman, what else?
I'm good. I don't.
well, I move that we consider at our next steering committee meeting a regrouping of the districts. I have two other alternatives. It's getting late now, and I'm afraid that the status quo is more preferable to making a change that's positive for our citizens. But I move that we consider this in our next meeting, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Now, what exactly do you want us to consider? The change of, you be more specific.
So you'll have
in
time
that
to
motion.
consider these three maps and think through them, and maybe we can tinker with them or adopt one of them at our next meeting. Just to consider the concept, have it on the agenda for the next meeting.
We have a motion. Have a second?
I'll second it for discussion. And then we'll vote on it.
Any further discussion on the motion?
I'll read it.
We'll read the motion, so we'll know what to discuss.
Consider the concept of regrouping the road board and school board districts at the next meeting.
And I would ask for a roll call vote, Mr. Chairman.
Any discussion?
I'd like to discuss it, but I mean, I think we've kind of discussed it all the way through. If there was something here to see and to discuss and look at in a challenging type form, I believe I'd want to see something else. But I haven't seen it, and I don't. This is it, so I'm not in favor.
Well, I've talked to my road board commissioner. I hadn't spoken with my school board representative, which is Grant Kelly, but he's fine with this. But I would like to give the other, I guess, road board commissioners and school board representatives the opportunity to maybe call each one of us and if they got a problem with this, which like I said, I haven't heard nothing bad from none of mine so far. So, but I'm just willing to do this.
Now, I just for clarification's sake, Commissioner Sandlin, Commissioner Jordan, anybody else, but you both were on the committee, and Commissioner Phillips, but when this was brought up, I know all the elected officials were asked if they had any comments. I know the commissioners were. I don't know if
I was not asked.
Okay.
No.
Well, I don't think your
I got it.
district's affected by the redistricting plan. Would they have seen, the road board or school board members have seen
Yes.
how their zones would have felt?
They were sent out, the road board and the school board were sent out the same thing that the full commission is, to look at it as a whole, to see what they're representing and what their, what their districts look like now compared to, what it did look like. Because it did change, so.
Did y'all receive any calls from any of them?
A couple said, hey, we're going to redistrict, like talk with Wayne Blair, I'm still going to represent 8, 9, and 10. And wherever 8, 9, and 10 is, until something's done, I'm going to represent those people in 8, 9, and 10, to the best of my ability. And I believe that, as well as, other commissioners and road board members. So, if make a long story short, there was no negatives. It was all going to represent their constituents and where they've been elected, so. Understanding that we have to do this every 10 years and understood the heartburn that our committee went through and having to change. Basically, nobody likes change, you know, so.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
Some of the road board doesn't have anyone to represent because they're in the city. And they don't represent cities. That's my understanding. Am I right?
Well, I mean, city does have their own road
That's what I'm
situation, yeah.
saying. And Mr. Victory, I've never seen him at anything that we've had.
Well, don't he have part of the rural area as well?
He has,
Yeah.
he has Laverne and Smyrna.
But he also has rural area
Not much.
in his district.
Very little anymore.
Just like in the school board, they have rural area and also municipality area in each one of their districts as well.
And what she was talking about there, like to see at least 2 districts represented by a school board or somebody like that. And Smyrna have 1 district in it. And maybe the other one would be 1 district from Laverne and 2 districts from Smyrna. That's what Cena was referring to.
You still call him with issues, you know, and, I mean, he's the representative, you know, so they voted him in, so he's got to.
Rick Wise, when he was elected, he did represent us. And he's our first representation, really, even though we got a school named after one of the school boards. Roy Waldron's named after a school board member. And, you know, we just don't have representation. And that's what we were looking for, was representation.
Mm.
So, and Aaron just slipped in on them.
Hey, I'll be honest with you, Commissioner, I think Laverne has been represented well. There's a number of schools down there in the area.
I'm not talking about just schools,
you know,
I'm talking about everything in general.
And you and Commissioner Schaefer and Commissioner Turner represent Laverne very well.
Yeah. And I've called you all when we had a school opening, and a lot of you come out, and I appreciate that. And I really do. I'll call you again when it's my district.
Well, we're all elected by districts. And the thing is, but we're all Rutherford County Commissioners, and we need to do what's right for the entire county. And I think that's what we all try to do up here. No matter if some people think that we're not going to vote for this because we live on the other side of the county. I have voted for things in Laverne because it's the right thing to do. I have voted for things in Eagleville because it's the right thing to do. I voted for things in Smyrna because it's the right thing to do. Not because it's a certain area that I'm not from or whatever. And I think all commissioners do the same thing, you know.
And we did not say you have not, but you got to remember, I've come from a time when that wasn't true. That was not true. From the commission all the way up to the school board, way back. This was before, I think, the majority of all of you. I've been there. So the theory is wonderful if it's true. We're lucky right now. But in 10 years, are we going to have happen what happened to us back in the early 90s? That's what we're saying. And that is no reflection on any of them, please.
And understand that. I respect that.
Mm-hmm.
The same argument that Commissioner Goose brought up a while ago with Mr. Tackett living on the other side of the city of Murfreesboro. What's to say the difference is someone in Allenville or someone in Blackman say, oh, hey, I don't think that's right. Y'all need to put somebody right here.
Well, I'll be honest, I kind of think they should live in the districts they live in.
Well, he lives in the district.
You know,
he lives in the district.
You know, so that's...
just like, you know, we all live in the district.
We have a motion and a second. Motion on the floor. Any other discussion pertaining to that motion? I'm going to reread that motion one more time.
Consider the concept of regrouping the road board and school board districts at the next meeting.
Any other discussion to that motion? Hearing none, seeing none. Ms. Beckett, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Black?
No.
Commissioner Farley?
No.
Commissioner Gooch?
No.
Commissioner Jordan?
No.
Commissioner Sandlin?
No.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Coggin?
No.
6-1.
Motion fails. Any other business?
Mr. Cope, do you think next month might have something rounded up on this other part with the Election Commission as far as the cleanup that we were talking about at the first part?
I think that's what we're shooting for.
Okay.
Ms. Lester's more eminently involved in that than
Okay.
the mayor and I, because she's got more concerns about that.
Do we want to put that on the agenda, or do we want to just hear from
Why don't we
y'all
wait
when
and
we
let the
hear from
mayor
y'all?
advise
That'd
if
be
he's in a
fine.
position to
Yeah.
make a recommendation?
Okay. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank the mayor and other commissioners for being here tonight. Also, I'd like to say we're glad to have Commissioner Jeff Jordan back with us.
Amen.
Delighted to be back,
Amen.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
You were deeply missed last month. Any other business? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. Second, third, and all in favor.